We are now 8 days away from the 2024 NBA trade deadline. He's Jeffrey Cooperstein. I'm Harrison Graham. Unrest in Miami. The Heat have lost 7 straight games, Coop. And listen, some NBA talking heads believe that change could be needed. And the one we're talking about today is Kendrick Perkins. Big Perk. Hear what he had to say on Jimmy Butler. He said, it's time for the Miami Heat and Jimmy Butler to go their separate ways. They need to trade him to a team that can compete for a title this season. They aren't going to go on a run again.
So, Harrison, why does this matter for the Dallas Mavericks?
Well, some betting odds have come out, and your Dallas Mavericks are in the top 5 if they were to trade Jimmy Butler. Now, a little disclaimer here. I do not think he gets traded. I feel like we've seen this before with Miami, maybe not to this level of struggle. But last year they were an 8 seed and made the finals. I don't think they're going to punt on this season. But it is interesting, and it makes you wonder, okay, like even if this is some hypothetical world, what could you do to get Jimmy Butler, and does he vault this team into title contention if you bring him onto your basketball team?
I don't believe this losing streak does move Miami either. It caused them to make drastic change. Pat Riley is very pragmatic in how he operates that franchise. However, if Jimmy Butler were to be available at this trade deadline for some crazy reason, I would be very intrigued if I were the Mavericks, and I think the Mavericks would have some level of interest given Jimmy's exploits over the last couple of years.
I mean, look, he's a proven playoff performer. I mean, we talked about this off air. He's taken 2 teams to the finals as a number 1 player on that team. Like that's no small feat.
At all.
That's really impressive. Now I know the Heat have done a great job with having good role players around them. Bam Adebayo has been awesome. They've always drafted well. They did it again. Jaime Jaquez is one of the best rookies in the NBA. But this is a proven player in the postseason. In fact, the regular season at times, he's kind of like a fringe all-star, but then he just turns up the heat, no pun intended, in the postseason.
I'll say this. Jimmy is kind of the problem, quote-unquote, with the modern-day NBA is he has zero regard for the regular season whatsoever. Yeah. But once it gets to the postseason, man, the guy is absolutely electric, and he is one of the most clutch performers in the NBA today, no doubt about it. And the Mavs need someone like that, especially in the playoffs.
So before Coop shows the trade, ask yourself this. If he were to become available, what do you think it would take to get him? Well, it's going to cost a lot of draft capital. Well, the Mavericks don't have that. So I think the only way, in even this crazy scenario that it could happen, is that you'd have to send Kyrie Irving.
And I'll say this. We said Kyrie was untouchable yesterday, but if Jimmy Butler is on the table, that changes.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of different, right? Like, Jimmy Butler, I think for a couple reasons. Look, I think Kyrie is a more skilled and talented player, but I think Jimmy's more reliable in terms of health, although this year he's only played 1 more game than Kyrie, but I mean historically. And I honestly just think, Coop, he fits better. He's a better defender. This team is better when the offense is running through Luka. We've seen Luka and Kyrie have great games together, but they also haven't played together a ton still because Kyrie's missed a ton of time. It seems like when he's healthy, Luka tends to miss games. So, I don't know, man. Like, if this was on the table, your 2027 first-round pick and Kyrie for Jimmy Butler, I don't think the Heat would take it, but if it was on the table, I would be running that to my fax machine to send to the NBA.
A couple of reasons why I don't think the Mavericks would send this offer in either. Number one, the relationship with Kyrie Irving and Nico Harrison is very good and very strong. And I think that's something Kyrie really values, and Nico as well for that matter, because that's kind of what got him here in the first place. Number two, I don't think the Miami Heat are going to punt off Jimmy Butler off of 1 bad 8-game losing streak.
Agreed.
That's just not how they operate. But again, if they really felt the need to completely blow things up, maybe this is on the table. I don't think that happens until the offseason, though, for the Heat.
I do think, and I'm glad you mentioned that, I do think, let's say the Heat miss the playoffs or lose in the first round. I do think they could shake things up in the offseason, but I think they are. They're more likely to But I mean, they already traded for Terry Rozier. They're not going to turn around and trade Jimmy Butler. I'm just saying, in a hypothetical world, if you could get Butler for Kyrie straight up, or even have to throw in a first-round pick, like, I would do it. And that's not against Kyrie. Like, you and I have both said, like, he's been a Class A citizen since coming here.
No
that
doubt.
was a concern when they made that move in the first place. He has checked that box. He's been a leader on this team. But the bottom line is the guy misses a lot of time. And I don't think he's a perfect fit with Luka. I think they can play together. I think they can be a duo in the playoffs that teams don't want to see. But I also think if Jimmy Butler's like your Robin, when he's been a pretty damn good Batman for a lot of teams in Miami, I don't know, man. That's pretty damn intriguing to me. Why for yes and for no would you trade Kyrie for Jimmy? Get your votes in the comments section. Now we'll get to a more realistic trade target here in just a second. But listen, we need 25 subscribers on today's show to prove there are some real MFFLs out there. I know some of you guys watching have already subscribed, but we need more. Spread the wealth. Show the love. If you are a subscriber, share that link below, youtube.com/MavsTV with a fellow Mavs fan. And let's get this thing humming, baby. We're trying to get to 26,000 subs. So posting daily videos leading up to the trade deadline. Do not miss out. All right, Coop, let's get to a Kyle Kuzma update. And I think this is very relevant for the Mavericks because he's the type of player that I think Dallas would like to acquire. It was reported by Mark Stein, 10 days ago or so, and we talked about on this show that the Wizards would want 2 first-round picks. Well, The Athletic is now saying this.
They've kind of softened their stance a little bit. Here's exactly what they said. League sources maintain Washington has been holding out for 2 firsts, though the team sources indicate that is somewhat overblown. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean they're looking for 2 firsts but would accept one and another player? Or does it mean that they would accept a first-round pick and a pick swap? I don't know, but this kind of indicates to me that the Mavs could be back in on Kuzma.
You have to remember in these situations that a lot of the time, especially when at the time we were like 3.5 weeks from the deadline, now we're less than 10 days, when you get that report like a month out, that's probably like what Washington, that's what they're setting their price.
No
well,
doubt.
2 weeks go by, no trades happen. Well, that can be wiggled down a little bit, right? And so
deadlines make deals.
We'll talk about this more in a second because I think this is pretty interesting. But do have to tell you about our sponsor for the day. It is Prize Picks. Go play Prize Picks tonight. Listen, it'll be interesting to see what Mavericks players they
I was going to say, not many
on
choices.
Prize Picks because Luka's out. The Mavericks might lose by 50 tonight, which is why we're not talking about this game because a lot of guys are going to be out. But you could still go make your selections with Prize Picks. 2 to 6 player entries. You can play every single day. NBA, NHL, college basketball. Super Bowl Sunday is going to be fantastic. I mean, I'm hoping to rake in the dough this Super Bowl. Like this 3-player entry right here. Patrick Mahomes, they're giving you a deal. Half a passing yard. Yeah, he's going to hit that, I think. Isaiah Pacheco's been a touchdown machine. And Brock Purdy, I think he'll have a big game as well. 10 to win 50 if you collect or hit on all 3 of those players within that entry. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. Use the code CLNS to get started today. Link is in the comments and in the description below. So you get back to this Kyle Kuzma discussion. Let's say it is a first and a player. Well, you could go with this trade idea that Coop cooked up here, which is your 2027 first, a first-round pick swap, Josh Green, Grant Williams, Omax Prosper. This is kind of the framework of what I put out there when we talked about it a couple weeks ago because the Mavs don't have 2 first-round picks. I think the way to close that gap is you send a solid rotation player on a manageable contract in Josh Green. You could put Grant Williams in that category. I think Green has a little bit more value. He's younger. You could argue there's still some ascension there. I don't know if Grant Williams is still ascending, although he's been better recently. And then if you're high on Omax, if you're Washington, he probably has the highest ceiling of any of those players. And then you still get a first and a pick swap. It's a decent amount to give up if you're Dallas, but I'd probably be willing to do it. I mean, Kuzma's a 20 to 25-point scorer at a position where you're not getting consistent scoring.
Yeah, I would consider it for sure, and I do think this is pretty much the max offer the Mavs could give any team for any player at this deadline.
Man, if you want to, sure, you could throw like Jaden Hardy in there.
Exactly. I don't think they could give much more than that, but if they identify Kuzma as a guy that they really believe could put this team over the hump and get them into the top 4, top 5 in the Western Conference, that's something the Mavs certainly have to consider. We know that that position is the biggest position of need for this team right now, and it's just a matter of whether they're willing to give up that sort of capital to make a deal.
What I'm intrigued most about with Kuzma, Coop, is not only does he give you front court scoring, but he's improved as a playmaker every year.
Absolutely.
I mean, he's over 4 assists this year. Like, you get a guy at that size that you can play at the elbow on the baseline that can also pass out of those situations. Like, that's intriguing to me. And that's something this offense lacks.
And that's kind of the guy that Mark Cuban kind of hinted at that he wanted. He wants a guy who's 6'8", who can kind of create from that 4 position as well. Sort of like his boy Chandler Parsons, hopefully not as injury-prone as Parsons, but he wants a guy like that who's able to pass, who's able to score, and who's able to give them defense as well. And Kuzma does give you all 3 of those at a pretty high level right now.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Do you want the Mavericks to trade for Kyle Kuzma? If so, like the video. If you don't, comment why. Why don't you want them to trade for Kyle Kuzma? Because, look, at the end of the day, I mean, I'm staying with my stance of if the Mavs don't make a trade to upgrade the roster, I still think they'll make the playoffs, but they're probably one and done.
Yeah, ceiling would be a second-round team.
I think that is the ceiling. Like, and look, any time you get Luka into a playoff series, you're going to have a chance. I mean, he elevates, and if Kyrie's healthy, those two, can average 70 in a series between them two. So it's not impossible, but I don't think you have enough right now. Like, you need another notable piece to make a push at this thing. And I don't know if Kyle Kuzma is like some ideal number 3 on a championship-winning team, but he's better than Grant Williams by, I would say, a pretty wide margin.
No doubt. Yeah, I think he would definitely improve this team, and I think he would get them into a tier where they would be able to make the conference finals versus where right now I don't see a path for them.
His contract's also not that brutal either. It's like $25 a year.
Yeah.
For a 22-point scorer that can create, like that's probably undervalued.
I like the fit, man, and who knows what Washington's thinking over there. They could go fire sale and just get rid of all their guys and completely try to tank for a high pick in the draft this year.
Yeah, it's been a complete mess over there. All right, more to come as the days go by, getting closer and closer to the trade deadline.
Don't watch the game tonight.
Yeah, seriously.
Take the night off.
Take the night off. If the Mavs pull off a crazy upset, Coop will have a short breaking it down. If not, we'll be catching Z's because it's going to be a tough watch tonight. A lot of players are out. He's Coop. I'm Harrison. We'll see you tomorrow.